Hey, I'm going to tell you something nobody on this platform will say out loud. I spent 3 months on Fiverr and Upwork before I figured out what I'm about to tell you. 3 months bidding against thousands of people, undercutting my own price just to win a job, racing to the bottom. I'd bid $50 on a project. Someone else would bid $30, so I'd bid $20. And then someone overseas would bid $8. And I'd sit there thinking, I have 30 years of experience and I'm fighting over $8. And the thing is, even when I won a job, it didn't feel like winning because the client knew they were paying nothing, so they treated you like nothing. Endless revisions, no respect. And after platform fees, I'd clear maybe $6 an hour. And one night I was sitting here at this table and I'd just finished a Fiverr gig that took me 9 hours and I made $34 after fees. $34 for 9 hours. That's less than $4 an hour. And I just stared at my screen and I thought, this isn't working. This will never work. Because any platform where the whole system is designed to push your price down is a platform designed to keep you desperate. And I thought about all those years I spent building a career, all that experience, all those skills, and here I was, begging strangers on the internet to pay me less than minimum wage. So I stopped. I closed both accounts. And I started building something different. And today I want to show you the 5 things that are actually working, the things that are paying me real money. Not life-changing money yet, but growing money, money I control. Because I know a lot of you watching this are in the same boat. You tried the gig platforms. You felt that sinking feeling of watching your worth get bid down to nothing. And you need to know there's another way. So let me show you. But before I get into it, I need to explain why I'm so against the bid to the bottom model. Because it's not just about money, it's about what it does to you. When you're on Fiverr or Upwork, you're a commodity. You're interchangeable. The client doesn't care about your 30 years of experience or your specific skills. They care about price. That's it. And over time, that changes how you see yourself. You start thinking, maybe I'm only worth $8 an hour. Maybe that's all I've got left. I had a moment about 4 months into my job search where I was on Upwork and I saw a posting for a marketing strategy project. And it was exactly what I used to do. Exactly. The kind of thing I got paid 6 figures to lead. And the budget was $200. And I almost applied anyway, because I was that desperate. And I realized this is what these platforms do. They don't just undervalue your work, they make you undervalue yourself. So everything I'm about to show you is the opposite of that. These are things where you set the price, where you own the audience, where the value compounds over time instead of getting bid down to nothing. All right, let me show you what's actually working. Number 1, Substack. And this is the one I'd start with if I could only pick one. Substack is a platform where you write a newsletter and people subscribe to it. You can give it away free, or you can charge for it. I started mine about 5 months ago. At first, I didn't charge anything. I just wrote 2 or 3 times a week. I wrote about what I was going through, what it's like to start over, how to think about money differently. The stuff nobody tells you about surviving without a paycheck. And people started finding it, slowly at first. 10 subscribers, then 50, then 100. And most of them were people like me. People who'd been laid off. People who were starting over. People who felt invisible. And they started writing back, and some of them were going through the exact same thing. And it felt like building a community, not a business. And I think that's why it worked, because it wasn't a pitch, it was a conversation. After about 2 months, I turned on paid subscriptions. I charged $5 a month, and I was terrified. I thought, who's going to pay me to write about my problems? But people did. Right now, I have about 480 free subscribers and 38 paid. Those 38 people pay me every month. Substack takes 10%, so I'm clearing around $170 a month. And I know that doesn't sound like much, but here's the thing. It's recurring. Every month, that money comes in again. And every month, I get a few more paid subscribers. And it grows. If I get to 100 paid subscribers, that's $450 a month. 200. And I'm at $900. That changes everything. And the real thing? The first person who subscribed sent me an email that said, "Thank you for being honest. Everyone tells me to stay positive, but you're the first person who said it's okay to be scared." And I sat at this table and I cried. Because that's not Fiverr. Nobody on Fiverr ever sent me an email like that. My first paid offer beyond the subscription was a simple guide. I wrote up everything I'd learned about building income after a layoff, turned it into a PDF, and offered it to my subscribers for $15. 30 people bought it the first week. That was $450 in 1 week from an audience I'd built myself. No bidding, no race to the bottom. If you're outside the US, Substack works everywhere. People can subscribe from any country. Number 2, YouTube, which is what you're watching right now. I started this channel about 4 months ago, and I wasn't thinking about money. I was thinking maybe if I talk about what I'm going through, I'll feel less alone. So I sat down with my phone and a cheap microphone, and I just talked. I told my story. I talked about what it felt like to get laid off, what it felt like to send out hundreds of applications and hear nothing. And people watched, and they commented, and they said things like, "I thought I was the only one. And thank you for saying what I've been feeling. And I'm 55, and I got laid off, and nobody will hire me, and I thought something was wrong with me." And that's what kept me going. Not the money, the connection. I got monetized about 2 months in, and in the last 3 months, I've made about $640 from ad revenue. Each video takes me 3 or 4 hours to make. So if you do the math, I'm making maybe $7 or $8 an hour. But here's why I'm doing it anyway. YouTube isn't just about ad revenue. It's the engine that drives everything else. People watch a video, they click the link to my Substack, they subscribe, some of them become paid subscribers. People watch a video, they find my digital products, they buy something. It's all connected. YouTube is the top of the funnel. And for your first 3 videos, keep it simple. Tell your layoff story. That's your most powerful content. Then do a monthly income breakdown. Show the real numbers. People love transparency. And then do 1 tutorial, 1 practical how-to based on whatever you know best. Those 3 videos will tell you exactly what your audience wants more of. If you're outside the US, YouTube works everywhere. But ad rates are higher in the US, UK, Canada, and Australia. So your revenue per view will vary depending on where your audience is. Number 3, digital products. And this is where things start to get interesting. Because here's the thing about digital products. You make them once, and you sell them over and over. There's no bidding. There's no client revisions. You set the price, and people either buy it or they don't. I started with a simple template, a spreadsheet that tracks your side hustle income and expenses. I used it for myself, and I thought other people probably need this too. I listed it on my Substack first, sold it to my existing audience for $12. 15 people bought it the first week. That's $180 for something that took me a few hours to build. Then I put it on Etsy. And here's the key with Etsy. Don't just list it and hope. Search for what people are already looking for. I found that keywords like layoff budget planner and side hustle income tracker had searches but almost no competition. Underserved keywords. That's where you want to be. After Etsy's fees, I'm making about $95 a month from digital products between both platforms. That's growing because every new subscriber, every new viewer, is another potential customer. I've also done a mini workshop. I charged $25 and walked people through how to set up their first newsletter. 12 people signed up. That's $300 for 2 hours of my time. Try making $150 an hour on Fiverr. Try even making $15 an hour on Fiverr. The point is, when you sell to your own audience, you're not competing on price. You're competing on trust. And trust is something you build over time, not something you bid for. If you're outside the US, Etsy works internationally. Just watch out for VAT rules if you're selling to European buyers. Number 4, Amazon KDP, which stands for Kindle Direct Publishing. This one surprised me because I'm not an author, I'm not a writer, but it turns out you don't have to be. I took the guide I'd already written for my Substack subscribers, the one about building income after a layoff, and I expanded it, added worksheets, added action steps, turned it into a proper workbook. And I published it on Amazon, paperback and Kindle. The whole process took me about 2 weeks, working a couple hours a day. Now, here's what I learned. The cover matters more than anything. People absolutely judge books by their covers. I spent $40 on a freelance designer for the cover, and it was the best $40 I've spent on any of these hustles. And keywords matter. When you publish on KDP, you get to choose 7 keywords. And those keywords determine whether anyone ever finds your book. I researched what people were searching for. Things like career change workbook and over 50 job loss. And I used those exact phrases. In the last 3 months, I've made about $113 from KDP. That's not a lot, but the book also has a page in the back that says, "Want more? Subscribe to my newsletter." And that's driving people to my Substack, which drives them to everything else. It's all connected. Every piece feeds the others. And here's the thing I put in the back of the book that I think really matters. A page that says, if you're going through this, you're not alone. Here's where to find a community of people who understand. And I link to the newsletter. Because the book isn't just a product, it's a door. KDP works globally. Amazon sells in markets all over the world. Number 5, eBay. And I know, this is the simplest one on the list. But it works. I started selling stuff from round my house about a week after I lost my job. Old electronics. Books I'd never read again. Kitchen gadgets collecting dust. And the first thing I sold was an old laptop. It went for $180. And seeing that notification felt like a lifeline. It was the first money I'd made in over a week, and I actually felt something I hadn't felt in a while. Hope. Like maybe I could figure this out. Here's my system now. I list 5 items a week. Every Monday I take pictures and write descriptions for 5 things. That's it. It takes me about an hour, and the key is to check sold item comparisons before you list. Don't guess what something's worth. Search for the exact item on eBay, filter by sold items, and see what people actually paid. That's your price. The other thing I learned the hard way is shipping. I screwed up shipping costs on my first dozen listings and ate the difference. Now I always use calculated shipping and let the buyer pay. It's not as attractive, but I'm not losing money on every sale anymore. Over the last few months, I've been making about $280 a month from eBay. After fees and shipping, it's closer to $240. It's not going to make me rich. but it's cash in hand every week. And there's something about selling stuff that feels good, like you're turning dead weight into fuel. Everything I sell is a little less clutter and a little more freedom. If you're outside the US, eBay works differently in other countries. Fees vary, shipping is more expensive internationally, and in some places you'll deal with VAT. Just factor that in. So let me talk about what to skip and why. Fiverr and Upwork. I already told you my experience, but it's not just me. The whole model is broken if you're trying to build something sustainable. On those platforms, the incentive is always to lower your price, because that's how you win jobs. And once you lower it, you can't raise it. You're stuck. And you're competing against people in countries where the cost of living is a fraction of yours. That's not a business. That's a trap. And I know because I lived in that trap for 3 months. 3 months of my life I'll never get back, making less than I'd make flipping burgers. Every single thing I just showed you is the opposite. On Substack, I set the price. On YouTube, the algorithm pays me based on my content, not a bidding war. My digital products sell for what I decide they're worth. My book sits on Amazon, making money while I sleep. And on eBay, I price based on market value, not desperation. That's the difference. On Fiverr, you work for the client. On these platforms, you work for yourself. Okay, so here's what I want you to do this month. 1 month. That's all I'm asking. Week 1. Set up your Substack. Pick a name. Write your first post. Tell your story. Publish it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be honest. Week 2. Make your first 2 YouTube videos. Use your phone. You don't need fancy equipment. Tell your story in one video. Show your numbers in the other. Real numbers. People connect with honesty, not polish. Week 3. Create one digital product. A template, a checklist, a short guide. Something you already know that other people need. List it on your Substack and on Etsy. Week 4. Take your best piece of content and turn it into a KDP workbook and list 5 things on eBay. That's your 1 month action plan. Substack, 2 videos, 1 product, 1 book, 5 eBay listings. All of it feeding into each other, all of it building something you own. And I know it feels like a lot. But here's what I've learned. The hardest part isn't doing the work. The hardest part is believing you're allowed to. That your experience matters. That someone out there needs exactly what you know. Because after months of job applications and silence and rejection, you start to believe you have nothing to offer. That's what the job market does to you. That's what Fiverr does to you. It teaches you that you're worth less and less until you believe it. But that's a lie. And everything I just showed you is proof. Because they do. I promise you they do. So leave a comment. Tell me which one you're going to start with. And if you want help setting up your Substack, I've got a starter checklist in the description. It walks you through everything, step by step. You're not alone in this. There are thousands of us figuring this out. And I'd rather figure it out together. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.